All right, we are live, and they can hear our sound now.
Oh boy.
Here we go.
All right.
Is a video on, Jeff?
Yes, yes, the
All
video is
right.
definitely on.
Hello, everybody. This is Dustin Garman here with my buddy Jeff Fox. You know him as Foxworthy. Before I begin our little our rendezvous, I've got a few announcements today. I was talking to Matt Nealon, Bob Odell from Ohio, and they had lost a very close friend of theirs, David Mosiak, also director of operations. They, I was going to ask just to remember Jesse Venning, if I said his last name correctly, just to make sure. But I was going to ask just to remember Matt, David, and Bob Odell from Ohio. Keep them in your thoughts at this time. Also, I was going to ask y'all just to remember my wife, Betty. She's been really sick here the past 3 days, and I hope it's not corona-related, but she's currently upstairs with a very high fever and really bad case, seems like a flu. But she got her test today. Hopefully we'll learn that it's negative. But just to keep them in your thoughts, friends. But here's the show, and today is none other than Pat the Thinker.
Yeah.
Patrick Mulligan. I couldn't ask for a better person to be on here today.
Not at all.
How's it going?
That's why nobody's watching. That's why nobody's watching.
Oh, well, we
know
do.
You know your ratings went straight down the.
Well, we have Master Mike in there saying hello to you, and that he's glad that you made it today. So.
I don't see who's in here, but I think you might.
He's just watching on Twitch, so.
Yes. That's the cool thing about Twitch. They can also write questions in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just let everybody know I was the bottom. They were scraping the bottom of the barrel. I mean, it was they found at least. I mean, the first week they just decided not to even have the show. The second week they upstaged me for a pony.
Yeah. The first week is definitely our fault.
I think the only reason I'm on today is because they're gonna pull Fox's Twitch license and he doesn't have some. So we decided, we'll put him on even though nobody's gonna watch.
We can't cancel 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
Well, Pat, while you were on here, I usually start out with really good questions. I try to. But knowing you for as long as I have,
I'll give you really bad answers.
I want to know how you. I know you've been here since day one. How did you get really affiliated with Steve?
Well,
and SRG.
What was it? 2014 or 15, I forget which. Somewhere around there before I was at Gen Con walking around. I walked past these two guys and asked me if I liked wrestling. I think I had a wrestling shirt on. Like, yeah. Well, we got this new game that we're talking about making. And they showed me it was all paper. I think it was CM Punk versus Randy Orton. And we talked and everything like this and played a little bit. It was kind of cool. Well, then I totally forgot about it. We went our separate ways because it wasn't even for sale yet. And the next year I went walking around and I see these guys again. They're like, hey, we remember you. Because, Steve remembers everybody he's ever met. And I sat down first Thursday or whatever it was. Checked it out. I was in love with the game. And I'm pretty lazy when it comes to Gen Con. I don't get tickets. I'll just walk around and try whatever I feel like. So I had nothing planned. I spent the entire weekend playing Super Show.
Oh, okay.
I came in I came in second in the tournament, and Steve was talking about he was looking for a writer for like backstories and storyline for the game. And I had just published my first book, The Workings of an Idle Mind, on sale on Amazon. And I'm like, make you a deal, Steve. We're in the middle of the world tournament, by the way. I'm like, give me a name of a guy that isn't out yet, and I'll write something up. He's like, yeah, sure. We've got this new guy that's going to be coming out soon called Gold Standard. So as I'm playing in the World Championship tournament, I write up this backstory for the Gold Standard. I handed it to Steve. He's like, get out of my head. This is even better than I thought. I'm like, cool, glad you like. No biggie, maybe we can do some more work in the future. And later on that year, I was going to New York to sightsee and everything. So I'd given Steve a call because he'd given me his number. He volunteers to pick me up at the airport. And as he pulls up in the airport, it's him, Gropar, I think it was Lorenzo Monicati was the other guy. And as I get into this car, Steve turns to these guys and he's like, "Hey guys, I'd like you to meet Pat Mulligan, our director of creative." I'm like, we didn't really talk about that yet, have we? He's like, yeah, we did. You are. I mean, and from there, it's been one wild ride. I mean, it's a great company that it's true family, and I don't know what else to say. As you can see, I've worn out the sticker on my shirt. I wear it so much.
It actually looks. I thought it was meant to look like that. I thought it was like actually a pattern. Like, oh, that's a cool. It actually looks better that way.
Yeah, it's the old man pattern.
We have Big Guy and Bombada saying hi from the chat as well, and you know, I also posted a link there for everyone so they can buy your book. You know.
And just so you know, one thing for sure, we're not fielding any questions from Bombada.
That's fair.
That was part of the agreement, right?
Yeah, well, I am kind of friends with the big guy, so I know he will get that out of you.
Like I said, I'm joking. Shaggy can ask whatever he wants. I can't guarantee I'll tell a truthful answer, but he can ask.
I've got another question for you, Pat. Because I know as long as I've been playing these 4 years, I've been hearing, which I don't want, you don't have to spoil nothing or nothing like that, but how long did it take to where y'all wanted to filter into making comic books?
It's always been a dream of Steve's, I think. And I mean, we've been working on it forever. I think we've got about 6 or 8 issues totally done.
Oh, wow.
I haven't really had a chance to sit down with Steve and discuss where we are, because the storyline that people know about the Legendary Fighting Federation is minimal to what me and Steve have in our heads. I mean, we went so far. I'm so far ahead. Like, most people probably don't understand what the takeover is, which was the 3rd set.
Mm-hmm.
That will come up in the storylines of the comics. Yeah, it's just it's something we've always wanted, kind of like Grand Gathering. He'd always wanted. And we're slowly but surely making it a reality.
Now, would you say comics wise? Because I know you were talking about Takeover, which has been a year or two, but I think prior. When you're making these comics and these storylines, or not storylines, but backstories, I should say, of these characters, are you usually, you try to filter in about a couple years, prior? Like, say, competitors come out this year, are you still currently working on some that from, I would say maybe 2 years ago?
Not necessarily, because there's no guarantee. I mean, we've got over 250, I think it is, competitors now.
Yeah.
And really, there's no way you'd be able to get all of them in the comic book.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we get ready to do the stories, me and Steve will have a phone conversation or talk in person when we see each other. And he'll tell me, okay, I want this to go from here to here. And he'll usually give me pretty much free reign to get it there. And depending on how the story's writing, I might need the mercenator.
Okay.
There might be something on a movie set, so I might throw in Hamish Macbeth or Romeo 3000. It just depends. I mean, I can't really tell you because I don't know where the story's going at any given time. I'll just grab whoever I think fits and toss them out there. And then Steve will tell me yes or no. And we work from there.
All right. We have a question from Bavada, but we'll get back to that later when we're more into like gameplay. But we do have a question from Master Micah in the Twitch chat, and because he is a newer player, he wants to know who is Newman and who is part of the Valiant group.
Well, Rock Newman is basically the owner and head of the Legendary Fighting Federation. And he's pretty much a heel. I don't know if I'd say heel in the main sense of the word, but he's more McMahon. He's a businessman, and whatever his main project is the Legendary Fighting Federation. He'll do whatever he has to do, such as working with Bombada and the family to make sure that the LFF remains viable and remains on top. Valiant is pretty much, I think we're going with he's going to be like the main trainer, working with guys coming in, and he's the offset. He's the balance to Rock Newman, where Rock will win by whatever means, do whatever he has to do, whatever means necessary. Pete tries to take the high road.
Interesting.
So we'll why don't we address the Bombada's question real quick?
Okay.
Let's hear from the horse in the room.
Yeah. What's your honest view on your Origins 2018 tag team partner?
I'm going to plead the fifth.
All right. We also have a question from the Cannoli, and if you would like to ask it.
Hey, what's up, Cannoli?
You have to unmute yourself.
Does he have to?
I mean,
hey, that's a good question.
That's you.
How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Hey, man.
All right, Pat. In no particular order, who are your 3 favorite wrestlers?
Oh. Well, I can tell you my favorite is Amazing Red. Always has been. And there's a story about that I can share sometime or later on. But Other than that, I would have to say I was actually a big fan of Jerry the King Lawler, and Kenny Omega is probably a third.
Cool. Thanks, man.
No problem, my friend.
Thank you, Cannoli.
Yeah. So, I have a question. So, Cannoli asked about who's your favorite wrestlers, the real one. How about who's your favorite competitors, not ones that you helped create in the Super Show?
Okay, so let's see. I remember exactly which ones I have to mark off the list. Okay, no D1, no D3, no Harrietta, no Krampus.
You forgot D2.
I did not. No, I did not create D2.
Yeah.
D2 was already made, and I had talked to Steve, and I'm like, you know what would be kind of cool if we did a D1 and a D3, where D1's the older brother and he's a midget, and D3 is like a 7-footer and he's the youngest child.
I thought at first y'all based D1 on my height, but
no, we just.
I'm just playing.
It was like it was a midget, and he loved it. But my favorites, I'd probably have to say King Carcosa is one. I really enjoy playing.
And the Cthulhu vibes is always cool too.
Yes. I just put together an Anarchy Sun deck that I think might be pretty interesting.
Okay.
I've always wanted to play, but other than that, I pick like all kinds of weird, random competitors that most people won't use or don't use.
That's fair.
He was kind of getting into the creation of the Freak Show, and I know starting out they were ones that I really I fell in love with their gimmick was, and I remember talking to you. I had met you a few months. You had came down to Russellville. I hadn't been playing maybe 2 months, I think, and you were telling me about them. And Freak Show was one of my favorites. And how is your thinking on that? I mean, it's an awesome gimmick. I totally love them. I do.
It was interesting because it was actually the very first. I mean, people like to credit Sierra Nevada for winning the very first Create a Competitor. Well, the very first one Steve had was a Create a Trio. And we'd already talked about the Freak Show. He liked the idea. Well, I wrote it up, and I was already pretty much doing the writing for the company at the time. And we got a bunch of them in. And Steve's like, well, put it in, because we don't really have enough. I'm like, okay, sure. And there was another, I don't remember who did it, but there was another trio that had been in there with like 3 lumberjacks or something like that. And I voted for them. And I went on vacation. I come back a couple of weeks later, like a week or two later, and ask Steve who won. He's like, you don't know? Like, no, I voted for the Lumber Brothers or whatever they were called. He's like, dude, you won by a landslide. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then later on, when we go to Gen Con and they actually come out, Steve hands me this 90-card deck that he put together. And he tells me that I'm running a Freak Show challenge. Okay, what's that? You're going to play against 3 people and make it work. I'm like, so the very first year we ran the Freak Show challenge, I was running it by the seat of my pants. I didn't really have a clue. I'd start off drawing 9 cards, if I won, I'd draw 3 cards and play a card against each person. And it was interesting because people could not win. The group of 3 could not win. And then I think it was the Kings, actually, after about might have been the second time I played them. They actually took the time to meta the whole thing out. And one of them played Gargano. One of them played Amazing Red or something. I forget what the 3 were, but they actually did all the math so that they'd actually be able to beat it.
Oh, that's cool.
And was that at your first trio challenge? Was that Gen Con 50? Because I know you were doing them then. Because that's when I won the challenges. Got the back then it was hard getting a membership ring challenge.
Yeah, I think that was like the second time. I think we ran it at 49 was when they first came out. But
is there any questions, Jeff?
Not recently. Oh, I should remind the people in Zoom that if they use the raise hand feature, they can ask a question if they like, and we will answer it.
See, I told you nobody wants to hear from me.
I mean, Bambata apparently missed your answer to the Origins question, but they did inform him in the chat that you pleaded the fifth. And so...
I literally think there's crickets because everybody wants to be quiet because they want to hear you.
Well, I'm sure there's people who also want to know. I mean, I imagine there's people who don't know about your big book, and with all the information on every competitor or almost every competitor in the game. I mean, they're coming out with a really fast rate, so I don't know how well you've been keeping up with them, but. I think once when you were on Power Hour, I asked you how the Press 1P's backstory was going, and he was one you hadn't finalized yet. But
yeah, I had to take some time off for personal reasons. And I'm slowly but surely getting back into getting them all down on at least paper, and then I have to input them into the computer. Then I have to send them to Steve.
Yeah.
Or to whoever created them, because the one thing is, even though I probably don't really need to, if you created the character, and Dustin will tell you, because I did it with GPS and Betty, I'll at least try to message you or talk to you in person when I see you.
Yeah.
And give you the heads up, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Are you cool with it?
Yeah, which makes sense, because...
I mean, I've had nobody complain, but it's not like they have a say in the matter one way or the other.
Yeah. So, we do have a question in the Twitch chat from Master Micah. It's, how do you go about creating the story? Say, like, a character comes out with a Bootlegger Club name. How would you write that story? I think that's a pretty directed question. Something that may be coming out with Master Micah's input, but
I'm kind of old, so I'm not really sure what a Bootlegger Club is.
Bootlegger. You should be old enough.
Oh, Bootlegger Club.
You come down to Kentucky, Pat.
Okay.
Early.
Well, it sounded like bootlicker, so I wasn't sure exactly what it was saying.
Sorry, I'm Philadelphian. I speak everything.
Oh,
wrong.
No problem. That's easy.
See, usually people think that's a problem.
The business. One of Rock's competitors has, for some reason or another, made a deal to stop all liquor distribution going into Ling's Fine Fortune for the LFF. Therefore, Rock has to get in touch with Bambata or a member of the family to hook them up with some bootleggers to get some fine grain alcohol in to make sure that the super show is indeed super. Yeah. And then I'd fill in random details in between there.
Yeah, I mean, seems like the solid approach to it. I mean, the interesting thing would be more like I know we have him listening, like fitting in everybody into the story and his building and whatnot. Because that seems like it could be a little dark for some type of comic books. I don't know how dark comic books are.
Everybody's easy. He had to sell a cross from GPS at the Ravenwood Psychiatric Institute, and he's not all quite there. But he has issues. He had issues with his cellmate, so he's come basically to deal with GPS and anybody else that gets in his way. Come on, this is easy now. You got to give me. You got to give me somebody. You got to pick a character. Give me something.
Oh man, like
you pick one, and I'll throw something off the top of my head.
I mean, like sorry, I'm an old school D&D like DM person, so trying to find like random like even for me, it's hard to like pick someone who can't come up with a story with it, just because like I've been in that situation where it's like, oh wow, I have to make a story up now.
Yeah.
So
that's one of the things I'm good at. So that's what Steve likes. It's like.
He's talking about
how did Baby Brick get in? Is the question in the chat.
How did Baby Brick?
Well, when a mommy brick and a daddy brick. I mean, I guess that is a weird wrestler.
We're not giving him the birds, the bees.
All right, but the big guy has a question about what do you miss most about the cons, or what do you miss most about the cons that this Rona took away from us?
Basically, I miss meeting new people and playing the game and teaching it. I mean, most of the time at the cons, like at Gen Con and Origins, you've got Sage and Sage and Steve, and I guess now basically Bell. We're spending a majority of the time at the booth taking care of sales. And like at Gen Con, I think I might have left the demo area for maybe an hour each day to get something to eat. So anybody that's played the game at Origin, a good portion of people have played the game at Origins or Gen Con. I might have probably ran their first demo or one of the first demo games they played. And it's just interesting hanging with people.
You're one every con that we've had, you're the one that I try to find out. You'll just be set.
Oh, right.
You've got a little setup and everything, and I've even seen playing with.
And I'm the
players.
one that talks the most smack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the things with newer players is it's funny is I'll talk smack that's ridiculous, and then if I'm doing even while I'm doing a demo, and depending on how it's going determines if I'm going to win or lose the demo. Like Razzle Dazzle, young girl from Michigan. When she came to Gen Con and played, she got into the game with her uncle right after our first Kickstarter when Mysterious came out. And she missed it. Well, she talks to Steve about getting Mysterious. Steve told her, okay, you've got one chance to get Mysterious. You're going to have to run the gauntlet. You're going to have to beat Steve, John, and me. So, like a trooper, she set out. She stomped John. She stomped Steve. It gets to me. And I tell her straight up, I'm like, I'm not letting you in. I'm going to crush you. I'm not letting you in. I enjoy crushing the dreams of young children. And needless to say, I went on and stomped a mud hole in her. I mean, after the match and everything, I gave her Mysterious anyways.
Yeah.
But she was complaining that there were no female wrestlers in the game. So I told her, I'm like, okay, here's the deal. I'm the director creative. Here's my email. You come up with an idea, you send it to me. I might have to make some tweaks, but if I like it, I'll pass it on to Steve. Sunday morning of Gen Con, I'm on my 4-hour drive back to Chicago from Indianapolis. I get an email. She has a full character worked up. I had to change like one thing on one of her finishers, and I'm like calling Steve. I'm like, "Hey Steve, you remember Raz?" He's like, "Yeah." Well, the roller derby diva is going to be on your going to be in your computer by probably Monday or Tuesday. She just sent me a full write-up on it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it went from there.
I think the coolest thing about, which I met Raz like a couple of Gen Cons ago. I hadn't never seen her again, but I think the coolest thing is knowing how young she was when she made that character. You know, it kind of looks like a high school competitor.
12 or 13, I think, is when she was. And we meet, she'll usually come by at least Gen Con and Origins. And we've got a running feud, one of my 2 running feuds going. So I think she'll always try to beat me. And then the other one is the old Glue Factory, Lamet Sr.
I think it's another cool thing about you also is not only do you do these demos, but I've seen your prize binder, and it keeps getting up there. You're a big play it forward person, and you're a good person to look up to at, just hashtag play it forward. You're one of those that I think about also.
I get so much stuff between buying and playing that I'm never going to use, and if somebody wants to get in and somebody's going to use it, more power to them.
Awesome. So we did have the question from everybody himself in the group chat about what do you think about everybody?
The character? I don't think it's too bad.
I assume it's the character.
It's an interesting character, and I'm sure that someone will I'm sure somewhere along the line I'll work it into a storyline. I just haven't figured out where.
He was fun promoing against, I'll say that.
I definitely have to teach him, along with your co-host, how to actually build decks for stipulation matches, but
no, it was not my fault.
That was something I take upon myself as a poor teacher, because he's like trying to say that I mentor him. I might have to take the blame for that myself. If you're playing in a ladder match, you might want to have a ladder.
Yeah.
Or tables.
Yeah, you might want a good grapple finish that you're going to hit and go for. But you think that would have been like in the Press 1P boot camp.
Yeah.
Now, Pat, you can't say much, because we did start selling lariats, though.
Well, yeah, you did help get the 360 lariat over. Oh man. So again, for the people in the Zoom chat, if you have a question, you can use the rain sand feature, and we'll get to it, or you can type it in the Zoom chat.
Hey Jeff, I got a quick.
Sure.
I got a quick comment for Mr. Mulligan here. And Dustin brought it up with his ultimate prize.
And for people who don't know, this is the LFF Hardcore Champion, Mark Perry.
Effin Perry.
Yep.
Thanks for the invite, Dustin. Patrick Mulligan was my very first ever, demo was through him at a Gen Con many, many years ago. Mind you, I did not pick up the game. But Pat doing his best to lose. And I could tell he's trying to lose on purpose. He never lost. He beat me 3 straight games. I'm like, you know what? If I ever going to get in this game, I want that die. Can I have that die? He goes, yes. And I'll tell you what, every single game that I've won with it, I always say, you can blame Patrick Mulligan. He gave me this dice from demos that he beat me down with. And then I played Pat at Gen Con, not this year because it was null and void, but last year. And I won a membership ring challenge with that die versus Pat, and I got an original D2. So yes, he is a pay it forward. He does all the flop. This guy's great.
It was interesting because and he's not lying. I was trying everything in my power in that demo to lose it, and I was like, I was talking smack, and I'm sitting there, and at one point I had every card in my hand was a stop, and then he plays a card that says "Show your hand," and I'm like. He's like, don't do this. If you're gonna win. And I proceeded to beat him like 5 or 6 additional games afterwards.
Oh man, that's so. Jeremy Steigerwald asked about how far along are you in the book of character histories. He came in a little bit after you mentioned you had to take some time off, but. I mean,
yeah, I took some time off, but I think I've got right now. I think it's about 75 to between 75 and 85. I'm not exactly sure where I am.
Okay, wow.
I've got them written down on paper. I'm working on putting them into the computer to get to Steve for somewhat final approval.
Oh, that's awesome. And then in the Twitch chat, the Kirk Polka would like to know, when is the Ringmaster coming out? Which is actually a question I think a few people would like to know, because I'd like to know too.
I'm not privileged to that information.
Okay.
He just gave Kurt the show.
No, we've talked about it, and I put some. I've sent some, but like I told Steve, I'm in no hurry. I would rather people in the community that don't have a character get one. The Ringmaster's just an add-on. He'll be interesting when he comes out, but it's nothing that I'm really in a hurry to see.
As someone in the community, I'm more in a hurry to see it because it just seems like it's it would just go perfect with obviously with the freak show and everything like that, and just be a great compliment to it. That it feels like it's missing not having the Ringmaster, which in some ways increases the anticipation for it. So, I mean, in some ways it's good. In other ways, it's like I kind of want it tomorrow. So,
the freak show is not done yet. I can tell you that much because I know of at least one more somewhere down the line that Steve was interested in that I had pitched him. But I mean, it all depends on what's going on, where story-wise.
Yeah, well, and you never know who might down the road pitch a character that would fit in with it as well.
Right, like Harlequin Queen. Mm-hmm. She emailed me beforehand, before her character even came up, and we didn't think about talking to Steve about it, but she actually joined. Story-wise, now she's actually a member of the Freak Show.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, is she a member of Think Tank as well, or just Shade?
Just Shade.
Just Shade. Okay. Yeah. I'm not really full on who's in every faction.
Trust me, neither am I. Yeah. Half the time I'm lucky if I remember I'm in the Think Tank and I came up with the idea.
All right, and here we have another question in the Zoom chat.
The answer is 42.
I assume it's Jeremy, but you never know when his roommate takes over. So he can...
Yeah, you do. He'll sound totally ridiculous.
Well, but you can ask your question if you like. You might be muted. Or...
No, that's Jeremy. He doesn't have the mask on.
Oh no, he's not here today.
Yeah, no, that's a different person completely.
It is. He's completely different.
Yeah. Trust me, one of them threatened to kill me with a Jigglypuff.
That was actually me. That wasn't Uberstar.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm scared of you.
At what point was the decision made, or that the LFF would exist in a universe where things like vampires, dragons, baby with brick generation powers, children that could fight adults, and all that were real things?
That's a boss question. I mean, boss makes the final say, and I just make it work somehow.
So do these things exist in the LFF universe? Interesting.
I mean, as for a baby with brick wielding powers, I'm thinking more along the lines of a monkey flinging poo. So the kid is flinging logs.
Oh no!
Reaches into the diaper and throws out a brick.
That is a
terrifying.
That is a stinky surprise.
Now, I would say for Gary Wynn, when he turns into a dragon, it's actually him wearing the T-Rex costume.
I was thinking more along the lines of gobble gobble myself. Yes. For those of you that can remember gobble gobble or gobbledygooker.
Yeah, the gobbledygooker. I mean, that was the same Survivor Series Undertaker debuted at, I believe.
He was terrified that it was going to be. He thought it was going to be him coming out of the egg for the longest time.
Yeah.
Wow, wouldn't that have been a different world?
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. All right. Trying to look to see. Yeah, Master Mike asked if there's a chances of the Freak Show to keep growing besides the one more, which I think you touched on with like Harlequin Queen being potential, and I think there's probably always a potential for it to grow if the character fits it. That's fair to say.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, storyline.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only so much. Like you said, it's pretty much a niche with the circus freaks thing, and
yeah.
I don't know how. I mean, I don't really want to go too far with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can put into one comic book.
Yeah.
But you never know when you have that background scene of like the circus with all the performers. Like, you could probably fit a good number of people.
I could add a couple more, but it's like. Oh.
No, I had talked to you before, Pat, and me and you had a little discussion. We were talking about how the trios are now. You know, the gimmick-wise, I'm not saying I've always loved the Freak Show. I love to use them. But it seemed like their gimmick now was mainly meant for that 90-card deck. Do y'all think of maybe transitioning into a new gimmick for the Freak Show? Or I was kind of wondering about that. Because I know we had talked about it.
I don't really think so. I don't think it'd be necessary. Because, actually, I've got it here. When your roll is at least 10 greater than your opponent's turn roll, you draw 3 cards. Which, if I'm going to draw 3 cards, I better hit my 20 and you hit your 10. Or hit my 30 and you hit your 20.
Yeah.
I mean, your cards with hold in the name had the added text, your opponent's next turn is -3. If anything, the only thing I would lobby for is just to get more cards with hold in the game. Other than that, it's not a bad. I mean, the spacing for number wise is decent. 24, 15, 18, 21, 30, 27. So I mean, if you can put, as long as you've got cards with hold that drop their turn roll, that will kick off that will help offset the front part of the gimmick.
Because I know when we talked about that before, that's way before we got all these new cards out now that actually kills, like, number 10, 11, and 12, you've got those -1s for, each strike you have in play, your opponent's next turn row and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's, these new cards now actually really help that.
And that's one of the things Steve does best. A lot of people complain when characters come out about them being ridiculously overpowered or broken or underpowered. And I mean, it's a living thing. It's going to happen. But Steve makes it a point that if he does consider something underpowered, he's going to make sure to bring it up. Like some of the people that played back when Ricochet first came out, there were hardly any flip cards. So Ricochet was a cool idea, but it wasn't really a viable deck because you didn't have the flip cards to make it worthwhile. And now you can't go through a number without tripping over a flip.
Yeah,
that's like I tell.
Colt Cabana was another one. People didn't think the whole plus to your turn roll and things like that were all that great. Lorenzo Monacotti with the shuffles.
My thing was like Jigsaw, because back then you only had a 13, 14, 15. Your opponent, buries one. And you only had 3 berries. So it's cool to see all these older competitors like Kayla Conley and all these others that have interesting gimmicks that now trigger so much. It's cool to see them.
Steve spends a lot of time thinking about this, working on this. I mean, if any of you ever try to call Steve, it's near impossible. I mean, not that he doesn't try to answer, but he's got so much going on, doing 3 things in a row or 3 things at once that you might get 30 seconds out of him.
Everyone knows the best time to call him is around Wednesday night between like 8:30 to like 11. That's like the best time to call him.
Oh yeah.
He was making my like True American Guy like competitor during a vacation, and he's messaging me on Facebook. I said, dude, you need to enjoy your vacation. Put the laptop down, grab a beer, and enjoy it.
Dude, he messaged me. I think it was for the Creative Competitor competition once during his honeymoon. I'm like, what are you doing? The last thing you should be thinking about is guys in masks right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that just shows the passion he has for the game.
Yeah, I mean, he loves this game. I think the only thing he loves more than this game are his children.
Yeah, and like anyone who's gone through the Creative Competitor process with that knows that like how much he puts into it and whatnot, and like or even just creative cards and discussing everything with him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he gives you your you can only get so much time with him at a time, but you get 100% of the focus when you do get it, and it's like it's always good influence, and he always makes sure your competitor is good. Like it might not be like what some people like. You might not make Grump's A+ list, but that doesn't mean a competitor is not good.
And that doesn't mean that just because you didn't make Grump's A+ list today.
Yeah, that you might not make it down the road yet.
That come Kickstarter, come the next Kickstarter, you might jump up to A++.
Yeah. Yeah, because like there's so much that comes out in card support and things like that, and like
I mean, we're batting idea. I consider myself fortunate that I have Steve's ear a lot of times, and usually it's maybe once a week or excuse me, once every other week. We'll call and he'll bat ideas for storylines and everything. So it's like, and so God, don't mention the creative competitor. It's getting about time for that to start up again.
Oh man, yeah.
But I can say one thing for certain now. That, I mean, I had approval last year. I just didn't get it in time, but there will be a form to fill out on the website when we get ready to do it. Okay. And it will most likely be, I think we had talked about the top 25. You will send the form in with your backstory, your idea, and then there will be a committee that votes, and we'll probably start up the competition from like a top 25. It won't be like last year where there were 79
now I was
things to go through and took 6 months to run.
Yeah, I was not actually in the game last year when it started, so I didn't get into the game until PAX Unplugged last year, so like I was way on the like halfway through it.
Yeah,
before I even saw it.
Like I said, last year I think if I remember right, there were 79. Yeah, I think it was like 79 original entrances.
Wow.
And it just got to be ridiculously long, and some people had great background ideas. Some people just tossed a name out there, and it's like, if you want, I mean, it's a $600 prize or $800 prize now. If you want it, you're going to work for it.
Usually the ones I try to vote for is which the younger, like if a kid makes a competitor, I am going to go for it. But a lot of times when I vote, I look into their backstory to see how much work they put in it, because the stories to me means a whole lot, because it shows the time and the effort that you really wanted this competitor in there.
And the stories to me mean a whole lot because that's less work I have to do, and I'm pretty lazy.
That's always fair.
The more work you do for me, the better.
Yeah. Again, I have never seen one from the beginning, so it'll be interesting to see how it really goes this year.
Yeah, and I haven't even talked to Steve yet to find out exactly when he wants to start and what exactly we're doing. Is it going to be a creative competitor? It could be a creative competitor. It could be a creative tag team. It could be creative trio.
Yeah.
He might even come up with a game to play stables, and you'd create a stable. I don't know.
Wow. I mean, having to write a whole backstory for a whole stable would probably weed down the number of people who could enter, like, because that's a good bit of writing right there. I mean, you'll get like a lot of us who have e-wrestling backgrounds from like the early 2000s on. Used to have to write novels for their characters pretty much, and very bad novels. But so I mean, that'll be interesting though. Like, a whole stable. That would be a very pricey prize.
I mean, don't take that as any kind of hint. That's just something I came up with on my own. I have no idea how we'd even work that out to be playable.
Yeah. Apparently, Bombada believes that Shaggy Shark got screwed last year in the first round, and that Google Doc Stan has the best backstory.
Well, as everybody knows, Shaggy Shark has been dropped on his head one too many times, or was hit with one too many of those baby brick poo logs that scrambled his noggin.
He's talking bad about my impact, buddy.
Anybody that knows, everybody that knows me knows I don't play favorites. I really don't care. I took all the groups, everybody that came in, and I randomized them and picked 5 at a time for each round.
Okay.
And every round, whoever was left got randomized again to determine who they were going to face off with.
I'm going to ask you this. Did you like the... I'm just curious because I heard like different inputs on it, but from last year's, did you like the comment thing? You like where you would tag everybody if you were voting for this guy or if you're voting for this guy? You get what I'm saying? And
I understand what you're saying. I have no problem with it. I mean, it works as long as people don't try to take advantage of it with the point thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I caught multiple people, and I think I had posted on it that you were only supposed to vote once. People thought that I was an idiot. If I vote today and I wait 2 days from now when the feed is 300 people farther down, I can vote again and get get this guy extra points. And I can promise you that it doesn't work.
I mean, there's also probably some people might be idiots too and thinking they can vote multiple times.
That could be, but I mean, I
might have done that.
I went through each and every one of them about twice to 3 times myself, and then had Steve take a look at them just to see if there was any I missed, and he'd count them up, and we matched our numbers after what we took out. So I mean, I don't vote. I don't really have any say in it. But I do my best to make sure that it's a straight shot all the way down the center. I mean, hell, I think, what was it, the one guy last year that got disqualified was a random name that I had made up just so that we had enough for one of the matches.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like there's no backstory, no nothing. We just tossed his name out there. And then when somebody else had dropped and we didn't need him anymore, I just disqualified him. It was funny because I think Steve, if I remember right, calls me up and asks what happened. I'm like, nothing. This person couldn't get in, so this guy got disqualified. Well, you really gonna do that without talking to me? I'm like, yeah. I made the guy up as a placeholder, knowing full well that he'd never win. I'm like,
oh, it would have been such a great story if it won.
Deja vu from your first one.
Yeah, really.
Have we got any more questions, Jeff, or anything?
It doesn't seem... not recently.
Okay.
No, it looks like it's about time for the dojo to get started.
Yeah, we've been talking for about an hour. The dojo tonight is at 8:30 p.m. And the Press 1P is back tonight, so I'm sure that'll bring in some viewers.
That's one thing I wanted to try doing is, try to cut in enough time to where they could get over and switch over to dojo.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be like an hour difference just now.
Hey,
the Zoom room's not even open yet. I believe... Oh, well, we do have a question from the chat from Kirk Polka. Pineapple or sheep? He is showing... Bombada is showing up in the users in Twitch, so he's probably still listening.
Yeah, I'm going to plead the fifth on that one.
The pineapple or
That's not that's not a feud I want to get in the middle of.
I mean, I'm team pineapple there. I don't like to eat either of them, but like you know, I can't say anything bad about Matt Nealman. Like when he was one of those people. I mean, I've had so much fun playing him since I started this game and playing online that I can never say a bad word about the man.
Pineapple's great on a Hawaiian pizza, and who can turn down some lamb chops? But it's not a feud I want to get into.
I can. I don't actually like lamb, so.
But yeah, if Shaggy's there, ask him his question again. I'll come off of pleading the fifth.
All right. Well, so if Bombada wants to restate the origins question again, we'll ask it again. But if he's working and not paying attention, well, apparently Practicite has disqualified you for putting pineapple on a pizza, and he's here. All right. So Bombada's here. So after he asks shark or horse, we'll ask the other question. I mean, shark or horse seems like an easy one.
I would have to say the horse.
Yeah. No one likes sharks. They have annoying songs. All right, so his question from the back was, what did you think of your Origins 2018 tag team partner? Honest opinion on him.
Honest opinion, I hate the guy with every fiber of my being, and I always have. The only reason I was in a tag team with him was basically storyline. He was crying and complaining that GM Calais was screwing him, and I was put into a tag team to make sure that he didn't get screwed with, because Steve and GM Calais weren't going to screw me.
Right.
We ended up going to second. We went into the finals of the tournament, and we lost to Kirk Polka and Slash Gordon, and probably one of the best tag team matches that I played in a long time. They both decided that I was the one they were going to beat up on, and the way his gimmick worked, I had no hand, so it was an easy win.
Yeah.
But there's the answer to the question. Every fiber of my being.
All right. So, as we'll probably start getting into the wrap-up part, in case anyone has any final questions, as time is getting close. We've been doing this for over an hour at this point. So, any final questions from the Twitch stream or the Zoom room?
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Yeah. Or find Pat in the future at an actual convention and ask some questions. All right. So yeah, the horse would like to know, of course. Horse, of course. How much wood can a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? And
38.6 ounces of wood per chuck.
Sounds about right. Oh, okay. And Kirk would like to ask Dustin a question. Pineapple or sheep?
No, I'm the guest here. You can't ask Dustin questions.
For real, this ain't last week's episode.
Nobody wants to talk to Dustin. I mean, come on, the guy doesn't even know how to do a stipulation match. Why would you want to ask him questions?
Well, I mean,
I did not play those lariats for the 40th time.
I mean, people might want to play them in a tables match. Ask them for a tables match. I mean, like,
yeah,
that's always good.
I can always go for hours.
So, Master Micah asks, as a new player, what is your favorite aspect of the LFF? Which is weird because you're not really a new player, but I think he, as a new player, wants to know what your favorite aspect of the LFF is.
I would have to say, and I'm going to give credit where credit's due, at least the first place I had heard it was Bobby Ohio from the Columbus Playgroup. Originally took the LFF, the Legendary Fighting Federation, and called it Love for Family. And I mean, that's a lot of companies say it, that they're family oriented and everything like this, but this is one of the few that I really see it. I mean, when people have lost stuff, gotten stuff stolen out of their cars, you look at even King Pink over the last couple of days, the first thing you saw in the discussion group was not, oh man, that really sucks, I'm sorry to hear it. It was more of like, send me a list of what you're missing and I'll see what I can get to you. So I mean, everybody in this community looks out for each other. And it's not something you see in Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon or any of those other games. We all actually tend to be, a majority of us actually tend to be friends with everyone. I mean, like I said, I have a few people that I really don't like. I know for a fact that there's a portion of the community that can't stand me. But other than that, we still get along.
So let's go with one final question. And it is, isn't it true that Shaggy Shark is your favorite character? And you're already storyboarding the book where Shaggy Shark converts the freak show to the side of good with his purity and honor and catchy music.
Okay, if you guys really want a spoiler on an upcoming comic book, I will tell you that being the freak show is usually off of Salty's Pier, where they have the carnival. In an upcoming storyline somewhere down the line, D3 will be fishing. He will catch Shaggy Shark. They will fillet him and eat him with butter and mushrooms.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, you guys wanted a spoiler.
Oh wow.
I try not to give spoilers out, but
love for fillets there.
You just got me hungry. I'm hungry.
Shark steak special. I don't know.
All right. Well, so I think we'll call the show there. That way Dustin can go fishing.
Yeah.
So, any final words, Pat, of wisdom maybe to the people watching? I mean, I'm sure Bombada can use a lot of wisdom.
Bombada, he's beyond any kind of wisdom. But I mean,
all I love you, Impact, buddy.
All I can say is the password to get into Ling's Fine Forge and the Legendary Fighting Federation. Let's roll.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on the show. Dustin, do you have any other final thoughts?
Yeah, Pat, I've known you for a long time, and you're one of those guys I really look up to, and I admire so much because you put so much love in this community. You say a portion probably don't like you. I highly doubt that, bro. I'd say a lot of people love you.
It's bound to happen. You got to remember, Steve and John are both nice guys. The odds of you hearing no coming from Steve and John are slim to none. And that's one of the things they like me about, because personally I could care less what people think about me. And if there's somebody that has to say no, hey Steve, just send it to me. I'll say no.
I like that too, that you're straightforward. I mean, I like that as well. But Pat, like I said, you're a big asset to this community. I can't thank you enough for wanting to be on the show and everything. And I've had a hell of a time just having you on here.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
All right, and thanks a lot, guys. And we will be going off stream